just jump up here, check a few things. Just check it. There's nothing can fly off. It's at least over 3 years since I've seen Mocara. The last time was in Lesvos when there was like a right-wing upheaval. On the island they were attacking NGOs, and we had to pull our personnel out off the island because they were attacking like assets like this, you know. We took Mocara off the island and started working with CI, a German organisation, and they have a ship called CI4, and we worked with them this last 3 years to provide SAR capacity, search and rescue capacity, and we've done great work together actually. But more recently it's, as you can see, well, it's probably seen better days, you know. We're very proud, myself and Jude and others, of what was started maybe 9 years ago now, coming up 9 years. And you know, there's been some incredible personnel along the way, incredible people that have been involved in this initiative.
So put it back over the street.
So right now we're in Hamburg. Mocara's been here for a couple of months. I'm going to trail it up to my place in Denmark, and eventually then we're going to build an exhibit around it, an exhibition, and exhibit it around hopefully a few international capital cities, and tell the story, raise the profile of the issues around all of this, and hopefully get a bit of money too to get back out on the sea again. Where's it going to go? If this boat could speak, it would tell some incredible stories, and there's just a feeling about it, you know. There's a feeling about this particular object, you know, because it's the amount of and pain and suffering that is seen, but also joy, also the joy and all of that. But you know, this thing came and rescued people out of the sea.
Refugee Rescue is marking 10 years of its life-saving mission in the Mediterranean Sea, and as part of this 10-year anniversary, it's looking to its future as well. With me to talk about all of this is local musician and co-founder of the organisation, Joby Fox. Joby, first of all, thanks very much for taking the time to be with us today.
No problem, Kieran, no problem.
I suppose, just first of all, if you don't mind, can you take us back to the beginning, looking back 10 years, what was the original inspiration for Refugee Rescue?
Well, you know, it was 10 years ago, the world as it was, and the Syrian war just broke out, and you know, no matter what your views are on it, there was millions of people pouring out from the borders in the various countries, Turkey and all of that. Many of those people were making the journey across land, which was, you know, it was treacherous in its own way, but many were taken to the seas, and the unscrupulous smugglers seen an opportunity to make money, and quickly a network of smugglers emerged. And when you have people that are so desperate, you know, and that they've lost everything, and as I said, millions, their country is just, you know, decimated, and there they are, and they're being exploited by these smugglers. They're hitting the seas. I was back home with Sophie, my partner, and my young son, and I just seen the images of what was unfolding, and I was disgusted by it, and the fact that it was not like a faraway land like Asia or somewhere which was, you know, entirely out of you know, our own jurisdiction. You know, it was Europe. They were rocking up on the shores of Europe, and there was nobody there to meet them, there was no one there to help them. So I just went down there, and I was there for a couple of weeks, and I thought I was going to walk away. And I've said this many times, I literally just thought I'll go down for 2 weeks, I'll get it up, you know, I'll say, well, at least I tried or whatever. But in that 2 weeks, what happened, what unfolded there was terrible, and but ensured that I was never going to walk away. And then I got speaking to Jude, Bennett, and I even contemplated not putting anything up on Facebook and all the rest of it, but I just done a wee post at the end, and people just bounced on it. So Joby tells more, blah blah blah, this, that, and the other thing. So then I felt almost like a responsibility to step into that space, and people just started, you know, coming our way, and it became very clear that there were people who were trying to do something but needed directed, and I sort of took up that role along with Jude, who's another artist. So I always think it's not. I don't think it's odd that there were two artists, people who imagine things and try to make things materialise. So when Jude came along, that was when it just clicked in, you know. So
I mean, so it could have easily been, you know, a bit of fundraising work or a bit of awareness raising work, but
That's right.
but again, but you physically went there, and then with the group, I mean, eventually you've got yourselves your own boat. I mean, you were there, you in the Mediterranean Sea, actually, you know, helping migrants, helping refugees.
Yeah.
I mean, just can you tell us a bit about how again that came together, even getting the boat and sort of getting people together who were going to be there doing the work.
Yeah, well, as I say, you know, there was first of all the intent. Do you know what I mean? Which is a great thing. People have the right intentions and all the rest of it. So, you know, let me just paint a picture of the first couple of weeks. It was really terrible. We were on an island called Lesvos, and it was north facing to Turkey. And the majority of the rubber boats full of an average of 60 people, children, women, men, all in these rubber boats, and they set out, and maybe there's 10 boats at the one time on the water, and there's only like 10 miles in between Turkey and Lesvos there. Be like a good reference point would be Donaghadee to Larne, I think. You know, you can see, you know, if you've got a nice pair of binoculars, you can see them taking off. So some of them weren't making it, and they were literally drowning before your very eyes, you know. So, you know, there was about 60 volunteers, and they were much like myself. Some of them were a wee bit more organised, but there was no great response from the big humanitarian organisations, which was sickening. It was really sickening, because in a lot of ways they complied with the political sort of you know, directive. Don't create a pull factor, you know, because more people will come because they think they're going to be greeted and all the rest of it. So many of those people that were working in those days were just ordinary people like myself who responded in the same way I did, and Jude. But being from West Belfast and being told, you know, you can't go out on the water to save these people dying before your very eyes, and people were saying, if you do, you'll be complicit in smuggling and all the rest of it. Well, you can imagine, you know what I mean? That's when the old West Belfast then kicked in, or stroke Belfast, you know. We say, is that right? Well, we're doing it anyway. We're going to do it anyway. So we said we needed a vessel. We campaigned for a vessel, and a guy called, a famous artist who didn't want to be mentioned at the time, but I'm going to say his name is Mark Chapman, and him and his brother are quite famous artists. But he got in touch and said, look guys, what do you need for to make this happen? And we stated a sum of money, and he says, it's there. And we always regret not saying twice as much. So we got this vessel. The vessel came down, and it was Jude's really shrewdness also. She kept an eye on all the bureaucratic stuff. So bureaucratically, the Greek Coast Guard and the European security forces tried to close us down a lot of times, but they couldn't legally. So bureaucratically, Jude was always 1 or 2 steps ahead of him, you know. So it all came together, and we started getting search and rescue teams from all over the world coming down on an average of about a month or 2 to serve. We got out into the water, we started plucking people out of the water. and we've been doing that. Well, that was 10 years ago, as you said, yeah.
And yeah, the work continued, I mean, through thick and thin. I mean, because obviously 10 years ago people may have been aware of it, but other things happened in the interim. But I mean,
Yeah.
you have kept at it like all that time.
There was a policy, Kieran, to once the first year or two were quite sort of, it was in the news and all the rest of it, blah, blah, blah. And it was also, there was a lot of, you'd have to call it just left-wing activism down there. We weren't built that way. We were built differently. Ours was purely on a humanitarian basis, and we don't give a damn about your politics. We don't care about your politics, and really that's who we kind of manifest as the ambulance service, as the fire brigade. That's what we did, and we leave. There's so many people served along those 10 years, and they keep their politics at the door. You know what I mean? We're not agitators. We're not up for that sort of stuff. You know what I mean? If you want to do that, you can do it, but not under the guise of Refugee Rescue. Refugee Rescue is a professional search and rescue organisation which operates on the basis of that humanitarian ethos, and we do not get involved in politics. Politics is, politics.
Well, if you don't mind, I mean, I want to ask quickly just about some of the political challenges. I mean, as you've mentioned, some European countries have cracked down hard on people involved in rescue operations. I mean, we've seen people have been arrested and charged with smuggling and so on. So, I mean, can you tell us just a bit about navigating some of that there for yourselves? And also, I imagine you've probably seen people you've been working alongside who have been hit by some of the sort of political sort of crackdowns that have happened on people involved in the work.
Absolutely, and you begin to sort of unpack these things. The fact about it is they were politicising us. It wasn't the other way around. Do you know what I mean? These acts were humanitarian acts. They weren't, and the various governments and whatnot were politicising that and using the law, in an overzealous way to try and close us down, and that was for political reasons, of course, and we know that. But you begin to, as I say, unpack these things and recognise what really is going on, and it was, needless to say, it was an effing disgrace what they'd done, and it was really scary. And I had a couple of incidents myself, of course, but others were like put in jail for 6 months and the 25 years jail over them, and it was really, really scary, and it scared the wits out of everybody. But we just, as I say, we just kept within the legal framework, and the like of we subsequently ended up working in just off Libya with a German organisation called CI4, and they're like Sea-Watch, but Sea-Watch, CI4, all those guys have good legal minds behind them, like big renowned legal thinkers. So we availed of that also over the years, just to keep ourselves right, But I'm not going to lie, it was really frightening.
Yeah, and how do you think, the work has maybe changed over those 10 years? Has it gotten harder or easier, or is it more or less the same? Are you still, I suppose politically, when talk about how people talk about the EU becoming maybe a bit more right-wing, a bit more anti-immigrant, so on, you hear these stories, but also you're still working alongside these groups, you're helping out and making sure you're on a sure footing and so on. So is it something that's just sort of, you've just continued on regardless, or have you felt it's gotten maybe easier or harder over the time?
I hear what you're trying to get at there. We did, as I say, that's what I failed to mention, that we started working under the radar then. You know what I mean? We weren't keen to score points or any of the rest of it. If there's a bunch of people in the water, that was what we were keen to get them out of the water, put them on dry land, and let the politicking begin. Yeah. You know what I mean? And we, as I said, using the metaphor of sailing, we sailed through all of that, and we were well aware of it. And we could sit here all day and talk about it if you want, because but it really wasn't what we were about. Yeah. And I think everybody knows, that there was a level of normalisation, and these are the things that we've learned from growing up here in the Troubles. There's a level of normalisation now, and currently what's happening is it's, you know, it's pushed down like that. It's as bad as ever, Kieran. It's as bad as ever. You know what I mean? But it's just off the news agenda. It's normalised. You know, if something really bad happens, like I think it was about a year and a half ago, I think it was Lampedusa, a ship went down. I think it was about 400 people. Absolute disgrace. I can absolutely assure you that that was allowed to happen. You know, and you know, people probably choose not to want to believe that. Say, how could that happen and all the rest? But it did happen, and it happens quite regularly. There's still kids washing up on beaches. You know what I mean? But we will continue to you know, to get out there and serve. But sadly, our vessel right now is not seaworthy. So we're on a funding drive to get back out there again.
So can you tell us then a bit about, you know, I suppose, I mean, the impact of the work Refugee Rescue has done over the past 10 years, and how your first vessel, you know, Machara, you know, has it served you over the last 10 years?
I will, you know, myself and Jude and others, Michael Cecil and Paul Kerrigan up in up the north coast there, and others. When we got it, it was like, well, particularly me and Jude, we were like, well, what are we going to do now? You know, I don't know. No one was really new. So it was when Michael Cecil came along. He drives the Rathlin Ferry, and I say Paul Kerrigan, a bunch of people up there. And the Rathlin and Ballycastle community, they were right on it because they've got that same thing going on, you know, so they were absolutely fantastic. And, you know, the funding, you know, we just started what I call a GoFundMe page, and people started to give us money. And what we do in Refugee Rescue is there's an administrative, a voluntary administration. We're all volunteers, but we facilitate the search and rescue teams from all over the world. Some of these guys are really interesting people. You know, these people are kind of they're stars in the kind of the search and rescue world, and they're coming to serve with us. And so we facilitate that. You know, that they go down and they're looked after and all the rest of it. And a lot of the times they bring their own funding, they fund themselves, you know, too. But you know, where the money goes, it's all about facilitating the search and rescue teams to get them out on the water and start you know, rescuing people. So that's hard. That's the model really that works, you know. So
you mentioned, I mean, you need a new vessel. You're fundraising for it. So can you tell us a bit about what's happening to help raise funds now?
Absolutely. I mean, we Machara got decommissioned. I think it was around about was it last summer anyway. And you know, you look at the vessel itself, and it's just, I don't know. You know, we coined the phrase of this. I know it's a pretty common thing. If this, you know, if this boat could talk, you know, this vessel, this you know, inanimate object, you know, but it's just 10 years. It has rescued 25,000 people, you know, and it's powerful. The powerful stories every day, a story, you know, of the people themselves. Who were in the water, and you know, and all of that, and you know, we just can't throw it in the dump, you know. So what we've decided to do was take it and create an exhibition, an art exhibition around it, sort of to raise what do you call it, the profile of our organisation and the work that we do in the environment that we work in and the issues themselves. And to try and attract some funding for to get another vessel, because the thing is, Kieran, you know, when something like that happens, you know, the vessel is gone, you've still got the know-how. You've got 10 years of working in that environment.
Expertise.
You've got all the expertise and all the rest of it, and you just can't, you know, it'd be like, you know, it just wouldn't be right to walk away. So we're all for it. We're all, you know, we took maybe 6 months off, and we're all invigorated again. And all we need is another vessel. So our funding aim is to get 100 grand and to get another vessel and get back out there again and start plucking people out of the water. That's what we do best.
And I'm right in understanding, as part of the art exhibition, I mean, you're actually going to turn Machara, you're going to turn the vessel into a piece of art as part of this?
That's right, aye. Well, it's just going to sit there, you know, and I don't know how we're going to, we're still, I mean, it's more, there's going to be more visual stuff around it, but it's going to be that thing. It will take up the size of this room. It's the tactile aspect of it. And maybe it's just us superimposing what we know about it, but that's what we're trying to share. We're trying to say, like, you know, part of it is like, look what you can do if you just follow what you think is right. You know, when everybody's telling you, don't do that, you'll be in trouble, or it's wrong, or, you know, if you you're led by the heart, you know, you'll very rarely go wrong. You know, people will tell you that, you know, it's all about getting, you know, politics and this, that, and are stuffed in your bacon. You know, it's wrong to be emotional and all the rest of it. It's not. Follow your emotions a lot of the times, you know what I mean? And it'll take you to places where you know that you're doing the right thing. Let's put it that way.
Yeah. And the art exhibition, it is called If This Boat Could Speak, and it will be doing a bit of a tour. It's going to be coming here in the summer, I think.
Yeah, it's coming here. It starts off in Denmark, but we're currently looking for an exhibition place here. So if there's anybody out there, should it be the MEC or wherever, you know, we're looking to bring the exhibition here, and we want people to come along and support it, and hopefully give us a wee bit of money too and help us along our way, get us back out there and do what we do best, you know. Yeah. And just on that, more generally, how can people support the fundraiser for the new boat? If you go to Facebook, it's a Facebook thing. We just don't have a site anymore. So we just do it through Facebook, and there's a donate button there too, and, you know, just bang away. As I say, go straight to where it should be going, like, you know. So that's us. We're yet another organisation trying to raise some money, you know. But as I say, what we do is pretty serious work, like.
Yeah. And could people, who, if they're interested, you know, still get involved in other ways? I mean, for example, could you still volunteer, for example, for Refugee Rescue?
I mean, our central ethos was if people came to us, as they did many times, saying, look, I want to help, and that's just it. You know, you want to help, okay. Now, if it works out that they can't help in our organisation, we'll signpost them to somewhere else, but we'll take their help. You know what I mean? We'll never turn around to someone and say, like, you know, well, leave them hanging out there. You know what I mean? We've always brought people in. I mean, many people have rang us thinking that they could just get on the boat and away they go. But I mean, they're highly certified, highly skilled people. But those people that came forward ended up helping us in different ways. You know what I mean? We always take that, you know, as a currency. You know what I mean? It's a currency, and take it on board. And that's, so if anybody thinks it can help in any way, get in contact and we'll find something for you to do. You know what I mean? So that's how that works.
Can you tell us a bit about the process? How does it work? I mean, when you help rescue people at sea and you're bringing them inland, I mean, at one point it was Lesvos, it's different places now. You know, how does it actually work in practice?
Well, think of it almost like a matrix, really, because when we're out on the sea, of course, there's theoretically anyway, meant to be a whole load of different legislative powers, which governments have, you know, on the high seas, you know. So, you know, we need to check in with port authorities, as you would if you were a merchant ship or anything, you know. So you have to do all of that. So, you know, the security people, they know if you're picking up and all the rest of it, and then you have to call in, as anybody would, to a port. And if there's been a crisis at sea, that's how it's certified, you know. So then there has to be a you know, medical response and all the rest is sitting at the port. But of course, what will be sitting at the port also will be the border guards and all the rest of it. So we have no jurisdiction there. When we get to the port, those people are onboarded. You know, they're onboarded for medical and all the rest of it, and then the border guards come in and they take over. And many of them get, it all depends where they're landed, you know. And over the years, the approaches were different, you know. At the beginning, it was like, you know, it was herds, and you know, it's like herding people, you know, and they put them in, and they still do in Lesvos. And that's what I mean about the whole normalisation of it. There is a whole process there. And, you know, the maintain people for large lengths of time before they can actually get their refugee status and all the rest of it, and lots of time they're just, there for years. And it's clearly a political mechanism to deter people coming. So again, we could talk about that all day. We could talk about how these people are treated and all the rest of it, and processed and all the rest of it. But I have a nice story here that kind of sums it all up, because I was in a local store where I live in Denmark, and there was a guy there working, a kid around about 18, and I asked him where such and such thing was. He took me down there. I noticed that he had that sort of Middle Eastern look, and I said, hey, because a lot of people in Denmark, they're not, originally from Denmark, and I said, are you Danish? No, I'm Syrian, and we got the chat, and I said, oh, really? I love being here. This has been here 10 years. It was 10 years, and I says, all right. And how did you come through the refugee program? No, he says, I came through an island called Lesvos. I was on a rubber boat. I was like, wow, and he somehow, mysteriously, even from my look, he said, you were there, right? And I says, yeah, I was. And I told him, I says, we operated the rubber boat that came across Mocara, it's called. And he was, he dived on me actually, and like mad hug, and he was clinging to me like, and he was saying, oh, thank you. It was a bit of a moment, of course. I was very emotional about it, and as he was too. And so we kind of, like got chatting, and as I say, it wasn't wasted on me. This guy was working a good wee job, had it all going for him, and he could have been at the bottom of the sea, and where many people did end up, all sorts of lives lost for what, there could have been an Einstein in there, you know what I mean? And that's what you got to think about when you think about lots of people. Who's there could be geniuses in there. There could be people who were going to find a cure for cancer or whatever. You know what I mean? Life is precious, and we need to respect life. And so it's that story anyway. At the end of the day, just sums it up for me, really. So.
And for you personally, looking back on the past 10 years of Refugee Rescue, what is it that has kept you motivated over the years, to keep it to work? Because, you mentioned an amazing impact, saving 25,000 lives, but imagine at the same time, you've seen a lot of hardship and tragedy too. So just for yourself, what keeps you going in the work?
I don't know. I think at the end of the day, it's a better than throwing my shoes at the television. That's what I always say. It's like I could be sitting at home going swearing, and like my dad, my dad was the same. He jumped up and down swearing at the television. Whereas I go, no, I'm going to get out, and it's like an itch. I scratch that itch. You know what I mean? And it's me and my partner Sophie, Jude, load of people. Too many to mention. And that's what we do, and there's a certain satisfaction in it. There's a certain satisfaction where you go, well, historically when people look back, there'll be those that looked the other way, and there'll be those that didn't. And I get a bit of satisfaction doing it. It's not going to be me. They're talking about looking the other way. We get up and done something, and we'll continue to get up and do something. And I've got the greatest life. I've got the music. I've got my travels and all the rest. I've got the greatest life. I can go home and take a warm shower. You know, the people that we serve they're destitute, and the cruelty, may I add, that people show towards them, the absolute despicable cruelty that people display to people who are on their effing knees. You know what I mean? Where's the Christianity of that? We're supposed to be a Christian country. We're supposed to be a religious country. Where's all that? You know, and you know, it's sickening at times. You know, and I don't want to be any part of that. You know, so that's what motivates me.
Well, Joby, once again, thank you very much for taking the time to be with us today, and good luck with all the work.
Thanks very much, Kieran. Thank you.